Are we ready?
We're live.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is William Ray, and I would like to call to order the April 12th, 2021 meeting of the Charleston County Board of Zoning and Appeals, also known as the BZA. Ms. Working, can you please go over the virtual meeting protocol?
Yes. Staff will control the slides displayed throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public must be sworn in before speaking for the first time. They should state their full name and current address for the record. Only attendees who have registered to speak before the deadline, which was noon today, may speak during the meeting. Applicants and/or their representative for the public hearing cases are registered to speak. Video and microphone have been disabled for all attendees. Attendees will only be given the capability to speak when they are called on by the BZA secretary or chair. If you submitted a request to speak on a case before the deadline, staff will call your name when it is your turn to speak and will enable your microphone. Your microphone will be disabled after you are done speaking. Chat has been disabled for everyone. Board members who need to recuse themselves will not participate in discussion or deliberation and will not vote. And finally, this meeting is being recorded.
Ms. Working, can you please call the roll of the BZA members and introduce and swear the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department staff members that are present here today?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Present.
Mr. Boykin?
Present.
Miss Allison?
Present.
Mr. Freeman, I don't think he's quite on yet. He's having some difficulties with his computer today, but he hopes to be on later. So we'll announce him if he arrives. Mr. Marchant?
Present.
Miss Switzer Smalls? Miss Smalls?
I'm on mute, sorry, present.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Williams?
Present.
And the attorney for the BZA is Mr. Calvin Hugie.
Present.
The Charleston County Zoning and Planning staff present for this meeting are Sally Brooks, Joshua Downey, Savannah Murray, Jennifer Stiles, and I'm Jenny Working, the secretary for the BZA. At this time, I'm going to swear in the staff that will present testimony or evidence. Staff, please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Because the hearing tonight is a public fact-finding meeting, we are in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act and South Carolina Code 6-29-70. 15 days prior to the hearing, an announcement was printed in the Post and Courier. A sign was posted on or near the designated property, and a notice was mailed to the applicant or the applicant's representative, to the property owners within 300 feet of the property, and the parties of interest. Persons, organizations, and news media have requested declaration of our meeting and have also been notified. Next slide, please. Board members, the meeting notes of April 5th were mailed to you. Our case from the BZA from this meeting are available to the public for the review and inspection during normal business hours and the Charleston County Planning Department. Next slide, please. Let's get something. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority. Pardon me, one moment.
While he's doing that, guys, just so you know, the April 5th minutes, those are going to be reviewed at the May 3rd meeting. So in your packet for May 3rd, you'll have the April 5th and the April 12th, tonight's meeting minutes in your packet.
Thank you, Ms. Working.
You're welcome.
I'll continue. So once again, the Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority on appeals on a zoning representative administrative decision. The BZA is authorized to hear and decide appeals on only zoning-related issues, where it is alleged that an error was made in order, requirement, decisions, or detriment by the administrative official in the administrative or enforcement of any zoning-related regulation. A 2/3 vote of a quorum present is required to overturn the decision of the planning director in an appeal. A special exception is an exception issued by the BZA authorizing a particular use in a specified location within the zoning district, upon demonstrating that such use complies with all the conditions and standards specified in the Zoning and Land Development Regulation Ordinance, also known as ZELDAR. The BZA must find that it is a special exception request meets all 6 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant a special exception. A simple majority is required to grant a special exception. A variance. A variance is a relaxation of the BZA regulation of the ordinance where such an action cannot be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to the condition to the particular piece of property and not result in the actions of or the situation of the applicant, a literal enforcement of the code would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship, and such variance is consistent with section 6-29-800 of the Code of Law of South Carolina within chapter 29 entitled 6. The BZA must find that the variance request meets all 7 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the variance. A 2/3 vote of the quorum is present and required to grant the variance. Next slide, please. Our purpose tonight is for interested parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering evidence pertinent to each case. If the members of the BZA feel a need for further information to clarify a case, the board has the authority to subpoena witnesses. It must be understood that the rules of your neighborhood or subdivision are binding and that they will take no actions to negate their jurisdiction under your property. In addition to your testimony, our board has been presented written information submitted by staff, by the applicant or the applicant's agent for each case. This information is now considered evidence and is entered into the permanent record of this body. It is assumed that it is complete, true, and accurate. In addition, we have been presented data assembled by staff for the purpose of clarifying the location and the applicant's effect on the surrounding property. Our board is empowered to approve with conditions, or to deny a special exception or variance request. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be a need to obtain additional information. The BZA's decision will be mailed within 10 working days of the public hearing. It will be mailed certified to the applicant and U.S. mailed to the neighbors and the community of interest. If an applicant's request is approved, the applicant should contact the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department staff to discuss the next steps in the process. Variances and special exceptions granted this evening are valid for 12 months after the meeting. A 1-year extension may be granted only if construction or development has been commenced or diligently pursued. However, if an applicant's request is disapproved and the applicant wishes to appeal the decision of this board concerning the case, appeals must be addressed to the circuit court. South Carolina Code 6-29-800 820 states that the appeal must be filed by the applicant within 30 days of the decision of the board when it is mailed to them. Failure to file an appeal within that time deprives the court of its jurisdiction to hear the matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be complete, true, and accurate. All of the information provided to the BZA is considered evidence. And this board may certify contempt of court if a false statement is made either in writing or orally. Each person who wishes to address the board will be sworn in by the BZA secretary before they provide testimony or evidence. Next slide, please. I will now call each case by case number. Staff will present facts that are pertinent to each case, limited to 5 minutes. I will then call the applicant. The applicant will state his and her name and current address for the record before presenting testimony pertinent to the case, limited to 5 minutes. I would then ask for those speaking in either support or in opposition to the case, and they will follow the same procedure for identifying themselves and are limited to 2 minutes each. The applicant would then have a chance to reply to any opposition, limited to 2 minutes. And the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application, state the specific facts of finding and conclusions of law. Tonight, we will hear 1 old case and 8 new public hearing cases. Next slide, please. Ms. Workin, would you please introduce the first old case tonight, which is case BZA-01-21-00443.
Okay, thank you. Earlier this afternoon, we received an email from the applicant, Andrew Todd Burke, and I have it on the screen, but it's a little blurry, so I'm going to read it to you. On behalf of the owners and developers, I would like to defer our item for tonight's BZA meeting. I apologize for the late notice. We would like to defer until the time that the appeals for our first variance and special exception approvals are resolved. It is my understanding that I will notify you at such time when the appeals process is resolved, and we will either get on the next available agenda or withdraw the application. So at this time, I'd like to add Mr. Todd Burke to the meeting so he can request this formally in person. That's okay.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello, how are you? I'll go
I'm
ahead
doing
and good. I'll go ahead and swear you in. Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Okay. And state your full name and address for the record.
Yep.
My name is Andrew Todd Burke, and I'm a landscape architect with HLA. The address is 29A Linebach Drive in Charleston, South Carolina.
Good afternoon, Mr. Burke.
Good afternoon.
Good. Do you have the ability to put yourself on screen, sir, so the board can see you?
I do. How's that?
Mr. Burke, Ms. Workin tells us that you wish to make a deferral for your case. Please tell us.
Yes, sir. Yes, we would like to defer this case as the approvals from the previous special exception and variance are being appealed, and we thought that it would be pertinent to understand how that appeals process will resolve itself before we ask any additional variances from the board.
Okay. Do we have any board members that have a question of Mr. Burke about his request to defer this case? Mr. Williams, unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Sir, again, you requested a 90-day or longer?
I believe the max that you can request is 90 days. However, we are hoping that the matter gets resolved before that time, in which case we will either ask to be put on the next agenda or withdraw the case.
Yeah, and Mr. Williams, typically what we do for deferrals is we do a motion to defer for up to 90 days. That way, if they can come back sooner, but then if they exceed the 90 days, they would just have to come back if it still hasn't been resolved and ask for another deferral.
Thank you.
Does any other board member have a question of the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Burke. At this time, does anybody care to make a motion to defer this case? Or do we make a motion to hear it? Mr. Borkin?
I'll be happy to make a motion that we defer the applicant's case for up to 90 days or until such time the matter is resolved previous to 90 days.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Williams, chair recognizes you, sir. Thank you. So board, do we have any questions regarding this motion? I see no hands. So therefore, we'll close it to the public. Well, with no public. But we'll ask Ms. Working if you call for the vote, please.
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
I don't think Mr. Freeman, is he on yet? Don't think he's on yet. Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
And Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous to refer the case for up to 90 days.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Mr. Burke, your application has been deferred for 90 days. Please keep in contact with staff so that you can continue to stay abreast of any changes that need to be made, okay?
Yes, sir. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much and have a good day, sir.
You too.
Okay. The next case on the docket tonight is case BZA-02-21-00464. And that case will be given by Ms. Working.
Okay, the applicant is Tom McFall, and the property owner is Caroline Smith. And the property is located at 2016 Wapu Drive on James Island, tax map number 343-0300203. It's located in the James Island Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Community Commercial Zoning District. The request is a special exception for the sale of alcoholic beverages on site, beer and wine, for a proposed restaurant in the James Island Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Community Commercial District. And this is required in our zoning ordinance in Chapter 6 under the use table that all restaurants that want to serve alcohol within 500 feet of residences require a special exception. These are those sections out of our ordinance. This is the zoning map. So all the parcels in red are CC. The parcels in yellow are our residential R4 parcels. And this map is showing you our notification for the 500-foot radius. We do notify for the alcohol cases 500 feet versus 300 feet for a typical case. This is a zoomed In photo, you could see the church parking, the Baptist church parking to the south there, and the residence to the north. And then a zoomed out aerial. This is the overlay map. This is a picture of the front of the building. And then the front and the rear of the building. And these are the adjacent properties. I'm showing on the left the commercial uses on Wapu, and then the James Island Baptist Church on Wapu Drive to the south. As far as the 6 criteria, we stated that we think it meets 1 and 4, and it may meet 2, 3, 5, and 6. On Friday, you guys did receive, I think, a couple letters in support, but also several letters in opposition. And we do have 1 speaker that would like to speak in opposition. If you choose to approve this application, we have 3 recommended conditions. And that is 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. 2, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the state of South Carolina for alcoholic beverage sales and provide proof of state approval to zoning planning staff prior to zoning permit approval to establish the proposed business. 3, the days and hours of operation for the restaurant shall not exceed Sunday to Monday from 7 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. Now, that condition we put to allow some flexibility. I know a lot of the concerns with the neighborhood are that they stick to the hours they suggested. So that might be a talking point for today amongst the board and with the applicant. This is the existing conditions plan. And this is a demo and erosion control plan. And this is the proposed site plan showing you the layout for the parking and all the improvements being made to the site. And the grading and drainage plan. And finally, this is the landscape plan showing you some existing plants and bushes with also the addition of landscaping to the site. And the plot. Do you have any questions for staff?
Mr. Borkin?
Jenny, just a quick question. I noticed that in their request, their hours of operation, were Monday to Friday, 8 to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 9 to 6 p.m. and Sunday from 9 to 3 p.m. And then I noticed in the conditions that y'all suggested that we might add, should we approve it, is to go to 10 o'clock at night. And that might be one of the issues some of these folks might be speaking against, is the hours of operation. But certainly they appear to be very reasonable in the request. Is what made y'all decide to extend those hours on y'all's conditions up to 10 p.m.?
Well, just giving a little bit more flexibility for the current applicant if he does want to change the hours, but also for any future tenants. However, I have no problem if he's comfortable with setting these hours. The only issue is if he wants to change them, he'd have to come back, but that's not a problem. If it's more agreeable to the neighborhood and the applicant agrees to it, I would support him requesting this more stringent hours.
All right, well, that's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are those,
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Williams. Go ahead.
are hours normally kind of, the hours going to be kind of set with that? Are they normally kind of requested, or how does that normally work?
Okay, so he is requesting specific hours. If you don't put a condition, then they could be open. They can open or close as long as it's not, affecting the noise ordinance. So there wouldn't be a condition. So we just, with the residents right there behind him, we do suggest there be some kind of limits on the hours. We were trying to be a little bit more flexible, but if the applicant would like to be more restrictive,
So that's a condition that the staff put forth? Is that? Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, board. Ms. Workin, is the applicant available?
Yes.
Trustee Tim.
There we go.
Okay. Hi, Mr. McCall. Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And if you can just state your full name and address for the record.
My name is Tom McFall, and the address is 2016 Wapu Drive in James Island. Hey, everybody.
Good afternoon, Mr. McFall. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Mr. McFall, please tell us why this board should approve your application, sir.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a little bit about kind of what we're doing. So we're working towards creating our second location for our community-focused health food cafe. We plan to operate, as you guys have been told, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in order to have kind of the least negative impact we can on our neighbors. Our original cafe is located in the north central neighborhood of the city of Charleston, and there we're happily flanked by 2 churches, residences, and neighboring businesses. We strive to be a positive force for our neighborhood, and through offering wholesome, nutritious fares, being respectful to our neighbors, and engaging in neighborhood initiatives. This year, we've partnered with a local charitable organization to organize bi-monthly street cleanups at our current location to remove hundreds of pounds of trash and debris from the North Central, Hampton Park Terrace, and Wagner Terrace neighborhoods downtown. In Riverland Terrace, we strive to create a similar connection and be equally strong stewards for the neighborhood. In Riverland, we are seeking a variance for a rear buffer reduction, which I guess we'll get to in a second, as well as the special exception to serve beer and wine. I've spoken extensively with the neighbors immediately adjacent to the property and have their support for the project. The neighbor to the rear of the parcel, who would be the most affected at 2017 Frampton Ave, is aware of our intention to reduce the buffer and serve beer and wine, and is actually in favor of our request. One of the letters against us was from 2013 Frampton Ave, and I've since reached out and we've spoken, and after explaining our hours and our plan over there, they are also in support of the business. One of the concerns I've heard from other neighbors have been in regards to runoff, as is frequently a problem in developments in the low country. And in this case, we'll actually be improving the drainage characteristics of the lot by removing all existing asphalt from the property and making the area porous to allow better absorption of rain and groundwater. We also have planned extensive buffer planting as well as an existing rear fence in order to reduce any sound or any other negative impacts that any commercial enterprise might have. As we've stated in our LOI, beer and wine are not core items for our business, as we are primarily a health food cafe. With that said, though, it is an important amenity for the business to provide in order to attract a diverse clientele. Our hours of operation, coupled with our organizational culture, are such that the addition of beer and wine to our healthful offerings should not be a detriment to the neighborhood. For the aforementioned reasons, I believe we have met the requirements for our variance and special exception request. And I appreciate you guys' consideration, and let me know if you have any further questions.
Okay, Mr. McFall, thank you for your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Does any board member have a question of staff? I mean, of the applicant, excuse me. Mr. Borkin.
Good afternoon, Mr. McFall. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, first of all, looking at your application, your LOI, and obviously your presentation this afternoon, I'm very impressed that you've, I believe, gone out of your way to try to have the least impact on that neighborhood. Your outreach to all those neighbors is commendable. It makes our job a lot easier as board members.
Thank
Are you okay abiding by the hours you submitted, the Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning to 6 in the evening, and Saturday from 9 to 6, and Sunday from 9 to 3? If we were to approve this request and we made that a condition, would you be all right with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess I got a pretty good feel of what your business is all about. Are you going to be having like live bands or loud, raucous music and parties and things outdoors that would be an issue for those neighbors?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Oh, that's all I've got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other board member have a question of Mr. McFall? Mr. Williams?
Good afternoon, Mr. McFall.
Good afternoon.
Just curious, how's the parking situation going to look like over there for the neighbors?
So if you're looking at the proposed layout, we'll have 8 spaces in the back. And then at our current location downtown, on any given day, we're actually 70% returning customers. And that's because we're primarily frequented by our neighbors. And so most people in that case, and we're hoping to kind of replicate that, walk and ride bikes. And we also incentivize people to ride their bike through various discounts and promotions. And at this location, there'll be a large bike rack right in the front right there. So yes, that's kind of the plan.
Okay. Good response. Ms. Moss?
I was just wondering, in the presentation, is there a church near this facility?
Yes, directly across the street.
Okay, and are they in opposition to this?
No, at least not to my knowledge. I've spoken to them several times, and their only concern was if we were to be open late, and they have that large lot right across the street. And so they would be concerned that if we were a bar and not a daytime cafe, that they'd have cars left there overnight. But in learning what our planned hours are, their concerns seem to be quelled.
Okay. I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
How did you come across this particular location?
I was originally looking at another location right up the street at, I believe, 2008 Waku Drive. And we pursued that location for a few months, but it just wasn't a good fit. And at that same time, noticed the location up the street and had spoken to the owner, Caroline Smythe, and she was keen on our plan, and we kind of took it from there. We're currently in the northern half of the Charleston Peninsula, and there are very similar characteristics between where we are currently and that neighborhood, Riverland Terrace. And I think that the ethos of our brand and business just fits very seamlessly with that area. And that's kind of how we came across that location.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question here.
Yes, sir.
The implementation of beer and wine.
Yes.
What kind of impact do you feel that's going to have, one, on your business, and then two, the community?
I feel that it will have a very negligible impact on the community. At our current location, beer and wine sales make up less than 2% of our total sales dollars, but at that location, it is an important amenity to have, because in many cases we'll have, say, a couple will come in, and we're a health food cafe with primarily plant-based options. We do have some local meat options, but in that case, you often have kind of like a kind of like dual interest in that customer. And so the selling point oftentimes for one party is like, but you can get a beer there. Like, I'll get a green smoothie and maybe you can have like a local beer. And that often, can be beneficial for the business, of course. And And because of the volume and the hours at which we're operating, I really don't believe that we're not an over an indulgence type of business. You know, we're not, it's counter service. People are coming up, buying what they get, and then they tend to kind of leave. You know, it's not a bar, not like a boozy hanging out of any kind.
So no one would be purchasing and consuming beer and wine and alcohol at on the premises.
They most certainly, if you were to approve this, they would be allowed to. However, it's just not the type of environment that really promotes excessive, consumption. Most people are coming to our business to have a green juice, healthy smoothie, a nice cup of coffee, a sandwich, or a salad. And then a few people may end up pairing that with one glass of wine, or maybe one, nice beer of some sort.
So let me see if I can recant your statement.
Yes, sir.
You said that beer and wine would represent about 2% of your business.
That's true.
So would it be a detriment? You have two cases before us here tonight. Would it be detrimental to your business if you didn't get the beer and wine?
From the standpoint of attraction, I believe it would be, because even though it's not a huge part of our sales, it's an amenity that people hear that you do. If you don't have it at all, then you end up turning a lot of people away. Just to be frank.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have a question of Mr. McFall? Mr. Marchant, I'll come right to you, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your presentation. I personally feel like your model sounds like a community asset in everything you've described, and certainly appreciate the perspective that you bring to the neighborhood and also to culinary choices. The question I have, twofold. One, can you talk a little bit more about occupancy? I think that helps. If half of your patrons are getting something to go and half are staying, what are we talking about here? And to some degree that relates to parking. And the other is, would you be amenable to a conditional approval based on the type of food you are serving? In other words, in 3 years, if this model doesn't work and you want to turn it into a cheeseburger joint, that's a different model, right, than what you've described. Yes. And perhaps may change the need or request for more alcoholic beverages. I think what you're describing makes a lot of sense to me. But so anyway, those two questions, I guess.
So the first being parking, and the second being whether we would agree to make it a conditional approval that if we changed our model, we would come back and see you guys, essentially? Yeah, well, yeah, and the first one was more about really occupant load in the building. So you mentioned some may stay. I mean, are you talking about 12 patrons at a time? It's not a huge, footprint. So no, it's not. So our plan is to have, if on the side of the building, there will be an outdoor deck with a max capacity of around 30 or so folks. I don't foresee it being full all that often. I do. At our location downtown, we have a very similar size outdoor patio, and at our busy hours, it's full, but typically you see a lot of people kind of grabbing and going. And that's really what saved us and how we're able to be in front of you guys today throughout the COVID time. Is a large portion of our business is in fact grab and go. We're kind of a quick service model. It's a counter service establishment. You walk in, order at the counter, and then there's no formal, server. They're just food runners. And so that also kind of plays to that lack of overindulgence that we talked about. And in terms of if we were to change the model, would we come back and reevaluate this? Absolutely. I think that if it was a different type of restaurant, I could foresee an issue with the neighbors. And so I would be happy to make that a part of our approval.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Martin, does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams. Unmute yourself, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. I like the model as well. My question is, so how many restaurants that serve beer, or how far away are the other restaurants that serve beer, possibly beer and wine?
I can't give an exact amount of feet, but I would say maybe a few hundred yards at the most. If you go directly up the street, you have Coleman Public House. And then across the street, there's Charleston Poorhouse. And then you also have that whole shopping center over there with Terrace Theater, Zia Taqueria, Bar George, and all of those businesses. So it's kind of, we kind of chose to intentionally be away from those businesses because we are, that whole side is a little bit more rowdy and tends to be a little bit more alcohol centric, and that's kind of what we are not. And so we intentionally wanted to kind of distance ourselves from those and be more, you know, your neighborhood breakfast and lunch spot is really our focus. We're really only open even into the evenings, just in order to prep and get ready for the next day, and pick up a few people who want to pick up like an early dinner on their way to home from work or something of that nature. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Mr. Borkin?
Just one more follow-up. Was one of the reasons you chose this location was its proximity to the Riverland Terrace neighborhood as far as folks' accessibility by walking, biking, et cetera, as potential patrons?
Yes, sir. That was 100% our thinking. Like I had mentioned earlier, that's a big part of our business in the north half of the peninsula. You know, we have a large portion of the community will come see us on the weekends via walking and bicycling, and it's kind of like the same faces every day. And I'm hoping to replicate kind of that local spot vibe in the neighborhood over there.
Gotcha. I'm well acquainted with it. Go over there all the time to dine. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Williams?
This is my last question, I promise. What is the name? What's the name of your restaurant?
It's called Huriyali, Huriyali, and it's a Hindi word. It means green vibrance. My fiance and business partner is born and raised in India, and we were living together there when we kind of came up with the idea for this. We've had the current location downtown for 5 years, and before that, we did all of the farmers markets in Charleston, and so in total, we've been a business for 7 years.
Very good. Anyone else? Ms. Small?
You said you're going to have an outside patio with 30 occupants, but what about your inside capacity?
We really don't intend to have any indoor seating. There's basically like a loading area of sorts as you walk in for people to kind of get into a queue. There'll be a small retail section in there where you can get your fresh juice or other food item like that. And then the intention is then to kind of get people outside, as I also believe that even with our current situation ending, I think that a lot of people will have the pandemic in the back of their mind for a long time and prefer to be outdoors.
Okay. I have a question for you, Mr. McFall.
Yes, sir.
So do you have an off-site parking agreement with anyone? Just in case you overflow, because 8 parking spots may meet the requirement, but sometimes it has a tendency to exceed that.
At the moment, I do not have a parking agreement. I spoke to the church in regards to that. They weren't too keen to put anything on paper. They told me that they feel that there will be a large overflow is not the word, but how do I say, like a shared of patrons. They believe that a lot of their patrons will spill over from the church to actually see us. And so with that, they were like, we're not going to tow our patrons from our lot who are coming to see you guys. And with that, we're not going to tow your patrons if they come in there and park for 5 minutes. But they weren't comfortable, as that I understand, giving us free reign to their parking lot. The adjacent salon kind of said the same thing. The owner over there, Edie, was very amenable to, if needed, having an employee park over there or something. But it was, we looked around for a lot in that area to see if there was a parking option like that, and there didn't seem to be a great option. But I know that there is street parking there as well.
Okay. Who in the church did you talk with?
I spoke to,
That had
sorry?
a position in the church.
I was unable to speak to the pastor. I tried to reach out to him, speak to him multiple times, but that's quite an operation they have over there. And I feel he stays pretty busy, but I believe I spoke to his secretary or assistant, and she passed on everything. And she kind of was like a middle person in the conversation. And she relayed to me their concerns, and that's who I spoke with. Her name is Neil. I'm not aware of her last name.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any other questions of the applicant? Thank you so very much, Mr. McFall.
Thank you for your time.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to ask him, did the property owner want to speak, do you know?
She wrote in. I don't know if she's not on the call right now. But she wrote in favor of it along with a few other folks.
Okay. Yeah, so I have one speaker that is in opposition or has questions. I'm not sure which, but we can get her on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Ms. Working, you're muted at this time.
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to figure out how to get her on. It's a call-in.
I apologize. I just saw your lips moving.
Yeah. Miss Snyder, are you on? I think I lost her. I don't know what happened exactly.
There's a caller showing up, but he or she is muted.
Yeah. There's two callers on, but there were three, and I tried to get her on, and I don't know what happened. I don't see her number. I'm gonna try to call her. Tell her to get back on. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on. Hi, everyone. She's on speakerphone, so I'm going to try to swear her in that way. If you can raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And then just state your name, your full name and address for the record.
My name is Freddie Schneider, and my address is 2017 Frampton Avenue, Charleston 29412.
Ms. Working, we can barely hear her.
Okay, yeah, she just stated her name and address for the record.
I heard that faintly.
That's it.
Is it any way we
Do
could
you need me to continue?
up the volume?
I have it on as loud as it goes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, if you could just speak as loud as you can. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I did want to thank you for understanding my and calling me back because of my inability to deal with technology. But anyway, I did want to say good evening to Mr. McFall as well as the board. And my concern is if, you know, I heard there was some discussion earlier about if Mr. McFall were to later decide to stay open till 10 o'clock at night or whatever.
Okay.
That
Definitely
would
not.
concern me. I do have to get up very early for work in the morning, like 4 a.m. So I'm fine. I think Mr. McFall has been nothing but respectful and open and reaching out to me. And I appreciate that about him and what he's doing. And I think that Hurriali will be a great asset to our neighborhood. But I would be concerned if the opening hours were to be extended later into the evening.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, she supports the restaurant, but just is concerned about the hours. I think she's okay with his proposed hours. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, I just would not be okay with hours and say next year things are going great and he decides he wants to extend his hours till 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
I would not be okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, so if the board decides to adopt his hours he requested, then that would be part of the approval. And so that if he or anyone else wanted to change those hours, they would have to go back to the board and we would re-notify the public.
Right.
So, but, okay.
Okay.
Do y'all have any questions or anything for her while we have her?
Couldn't hear.
Okay.
Couldn't hear.
Okay. Well, if that
I was
was
gonna
it,
say, thank you for getting on.
yeah.
Thank you for coming
Thanks
on.
for getting on, and yeah, hopefully you can at least watch the meeting. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sorry about that.
Can you kind of paraphrase what she said? I don't know if we can do that, Mr. Hugie, Attorney Hugie, but I really couldn't hear what she said.
Yeah, I pretty much paraphrased it, but I'll say again, like she was saying, she does support the restaurant. She doesn't have any problems with the restaurant. Her main issue is just the hours of operation. However, she is comfortable with hours he's requesting in his letter of intent. So if you guys grant the approval, she would feel comfortable with those hours,
Okay.
which was the Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and Saturday, 9 to 6, and Sunday, 9 to 3.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Working. Do we have anyone else?
That's it.
Okay. Well, Mr. McFall, I think she spoke in favor for you, so there is no rebuttal here on that. Board, do we have any other questions of staff? So, board, we have two cases here before us. The latter case deals with the sale of alcohol, beer, and wine. And then the first case deals with the setback. We didn't get there, I'm sorry. So, board, at this time, does anybody have a question of staff? Mr. Williams.
What was the setback?
I misspoke. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're just talking about the use right now.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I got confused for a second.
I got a little ahead of myself. Please forgive me.
No problem.
Any other questions of staff? All right. So at this time, do we have anybody that would make a motion either to approve or deny this case? Mr. Boyle, can I see your hand, sir?
Sure, I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve the special exception request in BZA case number 02-21-00464. I find based on the staff's report and review, the testimony of the applicant, and all the other supporting documentation, that it meets criteria. One, that it is consistent with the recommendations contained in the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan and the character of the underlying zoning district as indicated in the zoning district description. That it also meets criteria. Two, it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. I find that it will in fact enhance and make it even, it'll be an asset for that neighborhood. Criteria three, it meets that. The adequate provision is made for such items as setbacks, buffering, fences, landscaping to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influence of proposed use such as noise, vibration, dust, glare, odor, traffic congestion, and similar factors. That it meets criteria four, where applicable will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate any important natural features. That it meets criteria five, complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, standards of the ordinance, including but not limited to any use conditions, zoning district standards, or site plan review requirements of this ordinance. And it meets criteria six, that vehicle traffic and pedestrian movements on adjacent roads will not be hindered or endangered. With those being met, I also would include three conditions. Number one, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant will complete the site plan review process. Number two, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the state of South Carolina for alcohol beverage sales and provide proof of state approval to zoning planning staff prior to zoning permit approval to establish proposed business. And finally, the days and hours of operation for the restaurant shall not exceed Sunday to Monday. And the hours that I will put in my motion is from 7 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. And that is my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Marchant, I recognize your second. Questions, discussion? I have a question. It's just something on my mind here, board, is that I think this is a good endeavor that this applicant is doing, but the sale of alcohol and wine across the street, directly across the street from the church, it kind of does something for me. I'm not feeling that on this one, personally. If he were to grab and go with the alcohol wine, you know, probably so. But it being only 2% of the portion of the business, I don't think it would be a detriment to his business. That's just my thought. But selling beer and wine right across the street from a church doesn't resonate with me too well. That's just my thought. Anyone else? Very good. Any other questions, concerns? Very good.
So I have a question.
Mr. Williams.
So are you thinking that you're maybe against this or just something to think about?
I won't be voting in favor of him selling alcohol and wine.
Okay.
That's just my thought. But you make your own decision. So that's just my thought. Anyone else? Very good. So this application is closed to the business, to the public. At this time, Ms. Working, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Yes. Mr. Ray,
Nay.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Freeman. I don't think he's on still. Mr. Marchant.
Aye.
Okay. Miss Switzer Smalls
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. So 4-2, it's majority.
So, Mr. McFall, this application has been approved. Congratulations. Within 10 working days, the Board of Zoning Appeals staff will be sending you some information to let you know the next step in the process. Congratulations, sir. Please hold tight for the next portion,
Yeah,
for the
this-
next application.
yeah, I was going to tell him just to stay on. It'd be
Yeah.
easier if he stays on.
So the next application we have on tap is case BZA -02-21-00465. And that would also be done by Ms. Working.
All right. The applicant again is Tom McFall, property owner Caroline Smythe. Property is located at 2016 Walkley Drive on James Island, which is 343-03-00203. It's located in the James Island Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Zoning District, Community Commercial. The request is a variance to reduce the required 15-foot type B land use buffer by 10 feet to 5 feet for parking. And this is in our zoning ordinance in chapter 9. Next. These are the slides in the zoning ordinance, or the sections. Again, the zoning map, the red is community commercial, yellow is residential. And the zoomed in aerial and the zoomed out aerial. The overlay map. This shows the area where the variance is needed. And again, more. This is the site plan. And you could see, like on the site plan, if you can see that dotted line in the back and the rear of the parking, that's the buffer area. And the landscape plan. And plot. As far as the criteria, we stated that it may meet 1, 4, and 6, and we stated that it meets 2, 3, 5, and 7. If you should approve this application, we would suggest this one condition: prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. And do y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions of staff? Very good. Mr. McFall, please tell us why we should approve this portion of your application, sir.
Yes, sir. As I mentioned before, this variance is essential to use that parking lot in the rear of the lot. The woman who called in earlier, Freddie Schneider, is actually the owner of the house directly behind that fence shown. And she is also in favor of us having this variance passed, and would be the most affected by said variance. We've also spoken to Alan Sharkshnaz, who is to the right, and if you're looking from that fence to the back. And once hearing more about the plan, he was also in favor. And this variance is essential in order for the lot to be used in a commercial standpoint going forward. Also, there's already that existing fence, and then in between where the fence and the gravel, where all that asphalt is being removed and gravel is being put down, there will be extensive barrier planting in order to minimize any noise, vibration, etc., caused by said parking lot. I think that I've explained previously a good bit about the project, and if you guys have any further questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McFall. Does any board member have a question of the applicant? I see no hands. Very good. Thank you, Mr. McFall.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Working, once again, do we have anyone that would speak in favor or opposition for this portion of the application?
No, we do not.
Okay. Board members, do we have any other questions of staff? Any discussion? If not, I'll bring this case, we'll close this case to the public. And at this time, we'll hear a case either to approve or deny this application BZA 02-21-00465. Mr. Marchant?
I'll make a motion to approve in the case of BZA 02-21-00465. Item number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Obviously, the existing parking already encroaches. The prior use of the building allowed for parking there. And based on the applicant's testimony, he has neighbor approval as well. And given the existing conditions and existing use, I believe the request meets this criterion. Item number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. They're certainly unique to this particular property and are not applied to other properties, so it does meet that criteria. Under item number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or reasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Obviously, if the parking cannot happen, the use of the property as a restaurant would not be possible. And because it's historically happened within the traditional buffer zone without a variance, there would be an undue burden on the applicant to make this project work. So it does meet this criterion. Item number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. I think his planning plan is very appropriate and certainly takes into account the privacy to the neighbors to the rear and to the sides. And so I believe he has met that criteria. Item number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted may not be considered grounds for the variance. This variance does not allow a use that is non-permitting, and therefore it meets this criteria. Number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. The need for the buffer is not an act of his own actions, and the use of his planning plan is a good thing. Therefore, it does meet this criterion. And item number 7, granting the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of the ordinance. Certainly, it does not, and so it does request, or I'm sorry, the request does meet that criterion. One additional requirement is that prior to the zoning permit approval, that the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. That's my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Marchant. Do we have a second?
A second.
I think I heard Ms. Malls first. Thank you. So this application has been properly moved and seconded. Question, discussion. Ms. Working, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Okay. Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Marchant,
Aye.
Ms. Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
All right.
Okay, and that's unanimous with the
Mr.
one
McFall.
with the one condition.
Mr. McFall, congratulations again. Your final application was approved, sir. Within
Thank you.
10 business days, working days, excuse me, you will have information from the staff letting you know the next step with this application as well. Thank you for coming before this board and meeting with us, and have a good night, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, everybody's doing good so far? Great. So the next case tonight is case BZA 02-21-00466. And this case tonight will be deliberated by Ms. Working.
All right. The applicant is Robert L. Frank II. The property owner is Julian M. Simmons of Shallow Bluff LP. The property is located at 7453 Point of Pines Road on Edisto Island. The tax map number is 08000000020. It's located in the Agricultural Preservation AG10 zoning district. This is a variance request to allow an ingress-egress easement within the required 35-foot Osterham critical line buffer. And this is in Chapter 9 of our zoning ordinance, Article 9.7. These are the zoning ordinance sections that apply. And here's the zoning map. Again, it's in the AG10 zoning district. Zoomed in aerial, the property. And zoomed out. This is a photo of the easement, I believe. And the surrounding Osterham critical areas. These are photos of surrounding properties. And one is Shallow Bluff Road and the other is Point of Pines Road. And regarding the variance approval criteria, we stated that it meets all 7 of the criteria. And if you would like to approve the application, we suggest the following condition: prior to commencing construction, silt fencing shall be installed along the critical line. The silt fencing shall be maintained for the duration of the construction. These are aerial photographs that were provided by the applicant, and we can go back to these if he wants to when he speaks. And this map was also provided by the applicant. This is the proposed boundary survey dividing the property into the 3 lots. And these are the plots. So just basically the surveys of the land. There's a couple. The big tract. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Working. Is the applicant available?
I can do that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Mr. Frank, I'm going to swear you in first. Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
And if you can please state your full name and address for the record.
Robert Lee Frank II. My business address is 1923 Maybank Highway, Charleston, 29412.
Good afternoon, Mr. Frank. How are you today, sir?
Very well. And yourself?
God is good to me every day.
Good, good.
Mr. Frank, please tell this board why we should approve your application, sir.
Yes, sir. This is an unusual circumstance. The property itself is an unusual configuration. But really what we're doing today, the goal is to formalize an existing road that has been in use for several hundred years on this property. There's no intended change of size of the road or location of the road. No real intended construction except for really maintenance that would include improving the surface a little bit as it gets muddy. The main thing we're trying to accomplish is to allow this family to subdivide their property into 3 parcels so that each of the siblings can have a separate home after the family home was destroyed by fire about 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, that sounds great, Mr. Frank. Let me see if any one of these board members have a question for you. Does anyone on the board? Mr. Boykin?
Good evening, Mr. Frank. How are you?
Doing great, Joe. And yourself?
Doing fine, doing fine. Quick question. Would you have any objection if we were to approve this request, if we put a condition that any future improvement to the road would always be done with a pervious surface, whether it be rock or something where it won't create a runoff situation so that it might not be paved with asphalt or something in the future? Would that be something you'd find acceptable?
The owner is also in on this this meeting. I don't believe he's allowed to speak yet, but I do not believe that the owner or any of the other property, any of the other family would have any objection to that stipulation.
I will speak to him when he comes up next. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have a question of Mr. Frank? Mr. Williams?
Good evening, Mr. Frank. How's it going?
Very good. Yourself?
Doing well, doing well. So I see that there's a 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer requirement at this point. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And so this road right now is currently a dirt road. What would change? Anything? Anything change?
The only thing that is going to change is instead of being a dirt road that is informal, is that it will become an actual ingress egress easement to allow subdivision of the property at the end into 3 lots for the family.
So currently the buffer exists, or no? The distance to the marsh, is that what it is?
Currently the existing road runs right down the edge of the marsh. Mm-hmm. And it's bordered on the opposite side, in some cases by wooded land, and in some cases by what would probably be determined to be freshwater wetlands. So there's really no practical place to relocate the road, number one. And number two, it would be just wasteful and destructive to build another road parallel to the one that's been in use for a long period of time.
Okay, that's what I was trying to clarify as far as what exists right now, and that's a dirt road within that
Yes, sir.
easement limit. Okay.
That is correct.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Boykin?
Just to follow up, Mr. Frank, and maybe this will clear up some other things. As was stated, this road was pre-existing before there was an OCRM or a comprehensive plan or any of these things. I mean, by a long shot. And secondly, I think Charleston County requires that any road that's used as an easement for a subdivision or a subdivided tract has to be brought up to a certain standard so that police, EMS, and fire can make ingress and egress to perform their emergency services. Is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, that is correct. And also to the best of my knowledge, when the family home burned several years ago, the fire trucks made it in there. They just did not find out in time to save the structure.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Mr. Frank, thank you so very much for your testimony tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And
Ms.
Mr.
Wilkins?
Frank, stay on and I'll get on the property owner, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good question, Mr. Borkin.
Oh, could I chime back in?
Not right at this time, sir. You'll get a chance to come back.
It's just a very minor misspelling.
Yep.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
The project is named on the application as Shallow Bluff Road. It's actually Swallow Bluff Road.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hello?
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
All right. Can you show yourself, sir?
There I am.
There you go. If you would, please listen to the instructions of our secretary, Ms. Working.
Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Simmons, please state your address for the record, sir.
I'm Julian Simmons. I live at 1754 Ion Avenue, Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, 29482.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Simmons, and thank you for appearing before this board today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Like Mr. Frank said, in May of 2019, we had a devastating fire that destroyed our family home on this property. And with the growth of our family, my two siblings and I decided that we should build our own homes. And during this period, we found out that we need a variance because the existing road is within 35 feet of the critical line. This road has marsh on one side and wetlands on the other side, and the existing road has handled heavy agricultural equipment for many, many years. And like Mr. Frank said, fire trucks are able to get up and down the road. The alarm system did not go off in time for them to save the house.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Let me see if anyone has a question for you, sir.
Okay.
Is any board member, Mr. Porkins?
I apologize. Mr. Simmons, is it Simon or Simmons?
Simmons.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. I asked Mr. Frank, if we were to grant this variance request, would you be okay with the condition that the road be maintained, repaired, et cetera, in the future with pervious materials and it not be paved? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. That is.
Very good. Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Seeing none. Thank you so very much, sir, for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Working, do we have someone else to speak in favor of this application?
No, we have no other speakers for this case.
Okay. So that there's being no other speakers for or in opposition to this case, do we have any other questions of staff? Being none, I'll close this case to the public. At this time, I'd like to get a motion to either approve or deny case BZA 02-21-00466. Do we have anyone that would like to approve or deny this application? Very good, Mr. Boykin. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't want to hog up all the motions. Anyway, I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve the variance request by the applicant in BZA case number 02-21-00466 based upon staff's review and report, that they are finding it met all of 7 criteria. It met criteria 1, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. I absolutely concur. Its historical nature, the existence of this road, and the geographic restrictions on the property that make subdivision very difficult, to say the least, and utilizing this road certainly makes the most sense to accomplish that. Criteria 2, these conditions not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. This clearly was a Kings Grant property, and the marsh and highlands are all comprise it, and that situation with its irregular shape and wetlands and estuary around it make it difficult to be subdivided, and that this makes this a unique condition for this property. Criteria 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit unreasonably strict utilization of the property. I find that it would. The letter of intent, along with the testimony we've heard today from Mr. Frank and Mr. Simmons, supports that, along with staff's report. It meets criteria 4. The authorization of variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character and zoning of the district will not be harmed by granting the variance. Clearly meets that. It meets criteria 5. The Board of Zoning Appeals should not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown in the official zoning map. It meets criteria 6. The need for variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions. Those folks are long passed on that did this road, so certainly not the owner's fault whatsoever. The need for the criteria 7, granting this variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or purposes of the ordinance. It does not. And then I would include 2 conditions. Number 1, prior to commencing construction, silt fencing shall be installed along the critical line. The silt fencing shall be maintained for the duration of the construction. And then the second condition I would put is that any construction, maintenance, or improvements made to this easement or ingress and egress road shall only be done with pervious materials. And that's all I got. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay, very good. Now that we have this motion, any discussion? Very good. Ms. Workin, at this time, could you please call the roll for the vote?
Sure. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman? Oh, he's still not on. Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
And Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous approval with the 2 conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Workin. Gentlemen, congratulations. Your application has been approved. Within the next 10 working days, you'll get information from staff letting you know the exact process which to take. Once again, congratulations. And if you have any other questions, please contact Ms. Workin or the other staff of the BZA.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. How is everyone doing so far? We're coming along fairly quickly. Board, our next case tonight is case BZA-02-21-00467. And this particular case will be done by Mr. Joshua Downing.
Good evening. BZA case 02-21-00467. The applicant and property owner Ruthie Frazier Jeffries is requesting a variance to reduce the required 30-foot rear setback by 13 feet to 17 feet for a proposed addition at 4547 Frazier Hill Road, TMS number 2830000. 117 on Johns Island in Charleston County. The subject property is located in the Main Road Corridor Overlay Zoning District, Kickford Community Residential District, Rural Residential RR3 Zoning District. The properties to the north, south, and west are located in the same zoning district, and the properties to the southeast and east are located in the Rural Residential RR3 zoning district outside of the overlay zoning district. The applicant's letter of intent state my home renovation plan is designed for a full renovation to fully renovate the home to upgrade to today's living standards for better living conditions. The new addition is to proposed addition to provide additional space for improved living. Staff did conduct a site visit on March the 22nd, 2021. We believe that all 7 of the criteria have been met. In granting the variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features for the proposed building or structure as the board may consider advisable to protect the established property value in the surrounding areas to promote public health, safety, and general welfare. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions or deny BZA case 021-00467, variance to reduce the required 30-foot rear setback by 13 feet to 17 feet for the proposed addition at 4547 Fraser Hill Road, TMS number 28300000117 on Johns Island in Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. Staff did not have any conditions to include on this case.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have a question of Mr. Downey? Seeing none. Oh, yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
Hey, Mr. Downey, the setback, the 30-foot rear setback is a setback for what purpose? From the woods or what?
It's from the property line.
To where?
It's 30 feet from the property line to where any proposed structure can go.
Okay, trying to envision. Maybe is there a picture? So what you're saying is you have a what we have here?
That is the subject property. Where the cursor is currently is the non-conforming structure that is currently on the property, and they are proposing to put an addition, and the addition would encroach into the 30-foot required setback.
And it's a setback from the street or what? Just trying to get
it's from the rear property line.
In the rear. So it's kind of like to establish a yard or something or what?
No, sir. It's for the proposed addition to the house.
Okay, so that's the size of the house?
Not the size of the house. The setback is for where the structure is proposed to go.
Okay, are they going to keep the same the existing structure or?
Yes, they're adding to it.
Adding to that structure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Marchand?
Mr. Williams. Did that answer your question, Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Marchand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Downey, just to follow up on that, and maybe this will add a little clarity. I'm assuming the rear setback is the rear side of the property in this case is the side to the east of the existing building, which is about 17 feet off one corner and 14 and a half feet off the other. And so the addition is to a building that's already non-conforming, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're talking about the east side of the property, not the, I guess, south side.
The way the parcel is shaped, it would be the rear.
Okay.
Can you go back to the
east side of the building.
Yeah, east.
Okay.
East side of the building.
East side of the building.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Good question, Mr. Marchand.
What would be the purpose of the setback ordinance? this 30-foot setback existing ordinance?
All of our, in that zoning district, it's a 30-foot rear setback for all properties.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you. Ms. Working, is the applicant available?
Yes. Let's do- I'm getting her on. Fine. She's signed into 2 devices. There we go. Can you hear us, Ms. Fraser?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We can't see you, but I see your box.
All right. Let's see. How do I get to show myself? Oh, share screen. Would I do that?
No.
Almost like the camera's covered or something.
There should be a little button somewhere that says stop video. It might have a.
Yeah, okay, right
X
there.
across it. Yeah, if you hit that, it should.
It says select a camera.
Yeah, so
Videos.
it's showing her video is on, but for some reason it's black. I don't know why.
Why would that be blocked? Oh, maybe I put view somewhere. Let's see.
Like, you don't have the little camera cover over on it, do you?
Have the what?
Like a cover over the camera.
No, I don't.
That'd be something I would do.
Oh, wait a second. I see I'm here, but show mail. What's this? Hi. My son is going to try to help me. 1 second. See, I'm up here. I'm right at the top, but how do I get right here? I see the box where I should be. So what should I be clicking on here? Click there and see if that shows me. And no one has a clue? I don't know. Try that.
Okay, Ms. Frazier.
Yes.
Just to save a little time, we're gonna get Ms. Working to go ahead and swear you in, and we're gonna move forward, okay?
Okay.
Maybe your son can help you as we go through.
He's trying.
Okay.
So please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do.
Okay.
I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And if you can provide your full name and current address for the record.
Yeah, I am Ruthie Frazier Jeffrey. The property is at 4547 Frazier Hill Road, Johns Island, South Carolina. And I'm speaking in favor of it, of the variance.
Okay, Ms. Frazier. Well, thank you for coming to speak with us today.
Okay.
Please tell us why we should approve your application, Ms. Frazier.
Well, what I'd like to do is to highlight a few of the points from my letter of intent that would explain why I'm requesting a variance and the need for it. The purpose of the variance is to reduce the required 30 feet rear setback by 13 feet to 17 for a proposed addition at 4547. It is a 1.38 acre property, which contains an existing legal non-conforming resident that was constructed in 1968 per the records. The thing is, I have a home renovation plan which is designed to fully renovate the house to upgrade to today's standards for better living conditions and more space. As a result, the proposed addition would not encroach closer to the rear property line than the existing non-conforming house. Okay. The variance would not allow a use that is not permitted in this zoning district. It wouldn't have any conflict of interest to the neighborhood or the other homes that are there. The existing legal non-conforming resident was constructed, as I said, in 1968. Therefore, a variance is required or is necessary to comply with the current zoning laws and for me to obtain a building permit in order to get the job done. The zoning variance for this property would not substantially conflict with the purpose of the ordinance or the community. And quite frankly, on a personal note, or as a retiree, I need to get a building permit in order to have the house renovated, as I stated earlier, and to have my home built in order to come back home and have a place to live. We're still trying to work on getting the image.
All right, Ms. Jeffrey.
Did you hear? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am, I heard you. Thank you.
All right. Oh, now I have my image. I don't know why you're not getting it. What about down here?
Well, that's quite okay. We'll work through the technical difficulty, okay?
Okay.
As long as we can still hear you. Very good. Does anyone have a question of Ms. Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Borkin, go ahead. I'll come to you, Mr. Williams.
I'll be real brief. Ms. Jeffrey, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
Just to get this clear, the house was built in 1968, and in its original construction, it finds itself now as a legal non-conforming use, and it's already encroaching on that 30-foot setback. And all you're asking to do is not encroach any further. You're just adding add on to what's already encroached, correct?
Right.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Williams? Go ahead. You had a response, Ms. Frazier, Ms. Jeffrey.
No, I think someone earlier was trying to figure out where the rear setback was, and the adjacent property to that. Right now, there's no homes. It's just a wooded area at this point. But it would not interfere with anyone else at this point.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you had a question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
So essentially, you're renovating the current structure? Is
yes.
Okay.
It's going to be fully gutted and rebuild from there. But the structure, is will remain. It is block, and so it's going to be redone.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's part of the clarity I was trying to get earlier. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Jeffrey.
Yes.
When was the last time someone actually occupied this home?
A few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. So it's not in terrible shape right now. It's still.
Well, what it needs, as I said, we're going to fully renovate it. So everything will be updated. All of the major systems will be redone.
Okay, well, good for you.
Say that again?
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question of Ms. Jeffrey? Thank you, Ms. Jeffrey, for your testimony. Ms. Workin, do we have anyone else to speak in favor or in opposition of this application?
No, we do not have any other speakers for this case.
Okay, thank you. Board, do we have any questions, comments? Okay, at this time, I'll close this application to the public. And this is when I'll ask for either a motion to approve or deny this application.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Smalls, go ahead.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve BZA case BZA 0221000467. It appears that the applicant has met the conditions. Condition number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property that's requiring the setback. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted may not be considered grounds for a variance. And number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. Number 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purpose of the ordinance. And there are no special requirements attached to this. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Small.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Williams. Thank you, sir. So there's any questions, comments? Ms. Working, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Marchant,
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
Aye.
It's unanimous for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Ms. Jeffries, congratulations. Your application was approved within 10 working days. Staff will send out information pertinent to your case, letting you know the next steps that are pertinent for you moving forward. If you have any questions, please, ma'am, don't hesitate to call staff.
Okay, thank you. And I'm so sorry for not being able to get on, but I'm here.
You did well. You did well. Thank you so very much, and good night.
Thank you very much.
Board, we're doing good on time. The next case that we have tonight is case BZA-02-21-00468. And this application will be presented by Ms. Working.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm actually going to present both cases tonight because they're excuse me, both variances. The applicant property owner is Audrey, I'm trying to say this right, Tamakazu of Bright Oak Properties LLC. Her representative is Cameron Baker of C. Baker Engineering LLC. The property is located at 3280 Maybank Highway on Johns Island. TMS number 27900000006. This is located in the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Commercial Transitional CT Zoning District. The variance requests are both from Article 9.5, so we put them together. The first part of the request is to reduce the required 8-foot vehicular area perimeter landscaping buffer to 0 for a span of approximately 335 feet for placement of a driveway and retaining wall, and to reduce the required 15-foot type B land use buffer against residential use by 11 to 4 at the narrowest point for the site improvements for a proposed preschool child daycare facility. And again, it's our ordinance, Chapter 9, Article 9.5. And these are the ordinance sections that pertain to the property. This map shows in yellow is the commercial transitional properties. The properties that are shown in white are in the city of Charleston. Zoomed in aerial and zoomed out aerial, and the overlay map. The property is pretty wooded, so this is just a picture of the front of the property. These are the 2 grand trees that we're requesting to be removed, a 31-inch live oak and a 24-inch grand red oak. And then just, again, the subject property is fairly wooded. There's a drive back to the rear where there's a pond. There's a single family residence to the southwest and a vacant lot to the northeast. And these are photos taken of Maven Highway from the subject property. So the second request is BZA 02-21-00469. Same applicant, same representative, 3280 Maybank Highway, Johns Island. Again, it's TMS 27900000006. And this request is to remove 2 grand trees for a proposed preschool child daycare facility. And this is in Chapter 9, Article 9.4. And these are those sections, Section 9.45, tree removal variances. So I wrote this report combining all the variances and stated that they may meet 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7, and that we think it meets 2 and 5. Some suggested conditions are: 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. And 2, the applicant shall mitigate the removal of each tree by either A, submitting a mitigation plan for review and approval, indicating the installation of canopy trees no smaller than 2.5 inches in caliper, equaling inch per inch replacement. B, by depositing funds into the Charleston County Tree Fund as described in Section 946 of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance. Or C, a combination of both A and B. This plan shows the grand trees, the location of the 2 grand trees. And in this plan is the site and landscape plan. This plan shows existing conditions. Again, it's just a wooded site with a pond in the rear. And the plot. Do you have any questions?
Does anyone have a question of that? Mr. Williams, I see your hand, sir.
It's working. What's the diameter of these grand oak trees currently?
Yes, can you go back to the picture? Okay, yes, so the live oak is 31 inches DBH, so that's diameter breast height, and the red oak is 24, and 24 is our definition of grand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a question of Ms. Working or staff? Mr. Boykin.
Ms. Working, and this may be Mr. UG as well. If we want to make a motion down the road to approve both of the variances or deny them, whichever, as long as it's the same for both, do we need to take them up each one independent of the other and go through all the criteria for each one of them? Or can we make a motion for both of them and say that both meet or fail to meet?
I think it would be okay to, if you want to do all, so really there's two, but we would be doing two different orders. So,
Well, yeah,
Take an order for
you need to make a ruling. You can hear all of the evidence at the same time, but you need to make two separate rulings.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Marchant.
Ms. Working, could you pull up the site plan again? I just kind of wanted to get an understanding of the use of the property given the requests and as they pertain to the drive and the building. I was just trying to get a better sense for that.
I think the landscaping one's the.
Big ass.
So I believe the buffer is that area to the south, or the buildings along. And then the vehicular is to the north, where it runs along that property line. And Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is.
Thanks, this helps. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so this land use buffer down here, and then the vehicular buffer up here.
Ms. Workman, could you explain the land use buffer?
Yes, so when you have a commercial structure next to a residential, we require a buffer because typically in commercial, there aren't setbacks. So the buffer acts like a setback, but require plantings and or fence. So you're creating separation between two different uses. And that's really the whole point of zoning. It's to create a separation between uses using setbacks and buffers.
What are they asking for the variance for? It's concerning what it is now.
So to the south of if you see where the school building is, so directly below the school building is the land use buffer. There's a residence there now. So they're asking to be closer to that residence than allowed. And then to the north, you see the drive. They're asking to be up against that property line, the driveway.
Okay.
I muted myself. I apologize. Mr. Borkin.
Real briefly, Ms. Working, and I apologize if I missed it in the paperwork. Are there grand trees on the property that are going to be retained and not removed, other than these two?
Yes, I couldn't tell you a number, but if you do look at that existing condition plan, there are still a lot of trees. Not all of them are grand, but there are some that will be retained.
That was my point, is that there was some effort here, I guess, to spare some of these trees in this planning. That's it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Williams, I see your hand again, sir.
Was there any indication from the surrounding residents, whether they're for or against this, or no? I guess obviously not, right?
No, we didn't receive any public comments for this case. And nobody signed up to speak or send any letters or calls or anything like that.
So you said there's two residential addresses next to this property?
That's correct. I believe the one to the north, though, however, is vacant, but there is a residence to the south.
Anyone else have a question? Very good. Ms. Workin, is the applicant available?
Yes. Cameron, are you able to get your video on?
Let's see. I thought so. 1 second. For whatever reason, my camera is not working today.
Okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. If you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do. Oh, there, we see you now.
Got it.
Was your right hand up?
I do.
Okay, great. And if you can please state your full name and current address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Cameron Baker with C. Baker Engineering. Office is at 1942 Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407.
Good evening, Mr. Baker.
Good evening.
Mr. Baker, thank you for coming before this board tonight. Please tell this board why we should approve this application, sir.
Sure. Well, thank you all for the time. I'll try to be brief, but we've got a lot of information I want to try to review. The applicant, Audrey, she's the business side, and she's on the call too. If you have any kind of business and operational type questions, I'll have to defer to her. But the proposed use for the property is a daycare facility, a preschool facility, ages anywhere from 6 weeks to pre-kindergarten. It's currently the site, we're proposing a 12,000 square foot building, associated parking and stormwater systems. We're here tonight for 2 separate variance requests, as Ms. Working referenced. The first one is for grand tree removal of 2 trees, one being a 31-inch live oak, that's a grade B. And the second tree is a 24-inch red oak, which is a grade C. We're also here for buffer reductions. The planned north side for a vehicular use buffer. This buffer is required where parking or driveways are adjacent to separate properties. And we're also asking for a buffer reduction on the planned south side for a land use buffer. Just want to note, the land use buffer is required because the property to the planned south does contain a single family residential structure. However, both properties to the north and the south are zoned commercial and carry the same zoning as our parcel that we're working on today. A little bit of information about the site. It's a 2.3 acre tract. However, it is only 100 feet wide, which created significant design considerations. The site has a 1 acre open water pond at the rear. It's got 6 grand trees on the property. Most of them are dead, diseased, or dying. However, we have worked to preserve what we feel is another nice tree on the property. The natural topography of the site, while not a hardship, it's worth mentioning because it dictated a lot of the design. The property naturally drains from Maybank Highway to the rear of the property, so kind of plan east-west. As far as some of the design elements that we worked through, the building width was kind of the first and foremost effort. We really worked with the architect to reduce the overall building width and have gotten it down to a width of 51 feet. This is provided to meet both the operational requirements of the client as well as maintaining building code DSS requirements as well. Another effort that we worked through was parking location. Currently, the site proposes the parking to be located at the rear. This satisfies several things. One being aesthetics, that the building provides a nice buffer to the parking areas. 2, it meets the county zoning requirements. And third, and primary for our client, is that it provides some safety, it mitigates some safety concerns, that it focuses all the pedestrian activities, which being, preschool children, to the rear of the property. Before we landed on the site plan we're at today, we actually had several iterations that we worked through. One, we looked at sharing access with both the properties to the south and the north. We reached out, but those conversations were never progressed. We looked at multiple options for building placement. We looked at a mirrored site plan, which in an effort to help mitigate some of the tree impacts. However, it really created some ingress, egress issues and drop off, and again, back to pedestrian safety. We looked at locating the building at the rear of the property. This created a challenge, that it didn't meet the county zoning requirements for parking location, but more importantly, it created a pretty good stormwater hurdle, in that you'd be locating the building at the low spot of the site, which would mean fill and kind of bucking the natural topography of the property. So it created some stormwater challenges. So we landed where we are today, where the building, currently the 31-inch live oak is located under the building footprint. The 24-inch red oak is at the corner. However, with some exterior sidewalks that we have for the children's access to the playground, we felt the need for this tree was warranted. We're amenable to mitigation for whatever grand tree removals we're providing. We've also looked at, for the buffers, we provided some 6-foot opaque fence on both areas where we're requesting the reduction of that buffer to help provide that screening necessary for the adjacent use and or vehicular buffer areas. I think I'm running out of time, so I'll try to close it up. But if anybody has any questions specific to the site, I can happily answer, and our owner, who's also on the call, can answer any operational type questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Do we have anyone that has a question? Mr. Williams, I see your hand first, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Baker. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. This is a question about that, where that buffer area is going to be decreased. Is that going to be a driveway over there, or what's going to be on that end?
I guess where specifically, we've got two separate. So
looking at zero.
Yeah, really the where we're going for zero is where that driveway is located adjacent to that property to the north. Again, that property to the north is a commercial zone property. But yeah, it's just the reduction is only requested from that point where the cursor is until where the driveway tapers out again. We provide the required 8-foot buffer at the parking area in the rear. Again, we're providing a 6-foot fence along that area too to help ensure that we attempt to meet some of the opacity requirements required or presented by the buffer.
So what amount of feet is that you're asking for, the distance?
It'd be a reduction to basically 0 foot, 0 feet by 8 foot.
I mean the distance that you are asking for zero buffer.
Oh, I apologize.
What's that distance?
I have it. I think it's about 330 feet. I had it spelled out in one of these exhibits.
So that's a driveway in and out. Is that what that is?
Correct. Yeah, driveway in and out with some drop-off areas adjacent to the building.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question of Mr. Baker? I got just one general question. It doesn't really add too much for it. Your retention pond that's in the back, how deep is it? Is it 3 feet?
The proposed retention pond would actually be converted to a dry pond. So that portion for stormwater management will be dry. The remainder of the pond, while we did some boring, not borings, but some hydrographic survey data, it's about on average 2 to 3 feet. But again, that's existing, what appeared to be a kind of a man-made pond.
Are y'all gonna fence that off?
We won't have fencing. There's none proposed currently around the existing pond, but certainly could be amenable to that. There will be fencing around, obviously, the playground, the preschool area and building and outdoor play areas.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? I see none. Thank you so very much, Mr. Baker.
You're welcome.
Ms. Workin, so we have the other applicant available?
Yes, I'll go ahead and get her on. Hi, how are you? If you can, are you logged on 2 devices?
Sorry?
Okay. Can you please raise your right hand? I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And state your full name and current address for the record.
My name is Audrey Tamikazu. My address is 531 Rainsong Drive, Charleston.
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm excellent.
Very good. Ms. Aubrey, please tell this board why we should approve your application.
Well, if we approve it, we can build a preschool on Johns Island. As a parent myself, I recognize the need for additional preschools. Our preschool would serve infants from 6 weeks old through pre-K. We intend to use a Reggio Emilia program, which is a experiential based learning from 6 weeks all the way through pre-K, which allows the students to explore their own environment and sort of dictate not necessarily the rules by which they are governed in the classroom, but the areas that they explore. So if a kid goes to the beach and finds a shark tooth, you know, that week they might use the shark as an experiential you know, tool to learn how to count teeth, learn how to you know, spell the word shark and so forth. So dictate how they learn. So we're very excited to be able to do that and to provide what we see as a necessary service on Johns Island.
Very good, very good. Do we have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Williams?
Good evening, Mr. Tamikazu. How's it going?
Excellent.
Good. I'm just wondering, do you own the building, the land? Are you going to be the director of the school, or I'm just wondering?
I own I own the land and we will build the building. I will also be on site. We will hire a director, but I will definitely be on site as both the operations officer, CEO. My background is in accounting, so I'll be running the business and certainly in the classrooms, you know, making sure that everything is running smoothly and so it's definitely a locally owned. We're not franchised. We're building it from the ground up.
Yeah, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah.
Local plan. Good.
Do we have anyone else that have a question of the applicant? Thank you so very much. Wish you the best of luck in your endeavor.
Thank you.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application?
No, we don't have any other speakers for this case tonight, or these cases.
Okay, very good. All right, board, do we have any questions of staff? Comment? Okay, at this time, I'll close this application to the public, and we will entertain a motion to either approve or deny case BZA-21-40046-9 and 468. So we got two applications on this, folks, two. So whoever makes the motion needs to do both of them separately, okay?
Make the motion to approve.
Okay. You want to proceed then, Mr. Williams, with 468 first?
Yes, sir. I make the motion to approve BZA case 0221-00468 at 3280 Maybank Highway, Johns Island, South Carolina, for the variance request to reduce the required 8-foot regular area perimeter landscaping buffer to 0 feet for a span of approximately 335 feet. Placement of a driveway and retaining wall, and variance request to reduce the required 15 feet type B land use buffer against a residential use by 11 feet to 4 feet at the narrowest point. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. If you would start with criteria 1 first.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go down to 7, sir.
So the reason to approve this particular variance is that under criteria 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. As the firm explained, the site layout makes it extraordinary circumstances. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. These conditions does not generally apply to other properties. As it is explained, other properties are residential, so it's neighboring next to the just next to the property. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular place, to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. So it does not. So because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. So they need that variance to be able to design in the way that they've designed this school and this driveway. And also have the retention pond in the back, the dry pond. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. It is not a detriment to the neighboring properties because they're going to have the fence next to the residential property, and also the residential property owners is not against this plan. Number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more profitably if a zoning variance is granted shall not be considered grounds for granting a zoning variance. This being a school, we're not considering the profit or the loss because it's going to be a school and it's not going to impact the plan. Number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. It's not the result because the plan, because of the size of the building and the layout that they've got. Number 7, the granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan of the purpose of this ordinance. So it does not conflict with the comprehensive plan because it's currently, because of the current zoning. So for that, I move to approve the variance.
Mr. Williams, you also have the other conditions, 1 and 2.
I would suggest just putting 1 on this variance since the second one has to do with the tree.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
The condition, can you repeat the condition, ma'am, Ms. Workin?
Prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process.
Okay.
Just
So with condition, yes, ma'am, with condition, prior to approval, the applicant will complete the site review process of Charleston County with condition.
Okay.
All right. So what I would like to do, board, is to take it one by one and we'll vote on that one. Okay. And then we'll go to 4, 6, 9. Okay. So do we have a second for Mr. Borkin? I see your hand for a second.
Happy to second it.
Okay, your hand was just a little bit slow, Miss Small.
Actually, I had a question. Wasn't there a second condition on this one?
Ms. Small, the second condition is for the second application.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Good question, Ms. Small. Any other questions? So now that this application is closed and we've had a motion to approve and a second. Ms. Working, can you call the roll for the vote?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Ms. Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
And Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 1 condition to complete site plan review.
All right, Mr. Williams, you on tap for this next one. You started it, you finish it.
All right, sounds good. Concerning case number BZA 0221-00469, I move to approve this variance request based on the 7 criteria. The variance request concerning the 2 grand oak trees for proposed preschool, the removal of 2 grand oak trees. There are extraordinary based on these, number one, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. There is, again, based on the size and shape of the property and concerning the size of the building and the needs, there is exceptional conditions. Number two, these conditions do not generally apply to the property in the vicinity. They don't apply because, again, the property in the vicinity are residential properties, and it's the building sizes, and one is a vacant lot, so it doesn't pertain to the nearing property. Number three, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. So it does not restrict the utilization of the property. Well, because of these conditions, because of the various conditions, it does not restrict the use. So it applies to, number four applies because it says the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of zoning and district and the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. So the removal of the 2 oak trees, because it won't harm the area, the nearing area, because there are a lot of other oak trees that's being kept. So that's number 4. Number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance to the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of the land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. The fact that the property may be utilized more profitable if a zoning variance is granted shall not be considered grounds for granting a zoning variance. Again, we're looking at at a nonprofit school being used, and they're seeking to remove the oak trees, so we're not considering any profit motives here. Number 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. Again, it's not a result of the actions because those trees are sitting, happen to be there despite the plan that's been put in place, that's been designed. So really the trees are all over the property. Granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purpose of this ordinance. So it does not conflict with the comprehensive plan. Charleston County. Also, I add the condition, the mitigation condition set forth by the staff to mitigate against the 2 grand oak tree removals.
Very good.
If you could repeat that suggestion, Ms. Workin.
It's just condition 1 and 2.
Condition 1 and 2. Okay. Yeah.
That would suffice. Okay. Very good. Do we have a second for this motion? I'll second it. Now that do we have any question or discussion? Very good. I'll close it. At this time, Ms. Working, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Miss Switzer-Smalls?
Aye.
And Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 2 conditions.
Congratulations, Ms. Aubrey, on getting your application approved. Both applications you'll receive 2 forms and 2 packets basically within 10 working days, letting you know exactly the next step in the process. And we wish you the very best of luck in your endeavor in childcare. You have a very important job ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good night. Give me just 1 second, folks. Okay. Our last case for tonight. Woohoo! Is case BZA.
2 more.
We got 2 more. Oh gosh, I couldn't jump. Our last, next to last case for tonight. Yes. It's case BZA-02-21-00470. And that will be done by Mr. Joshua Downey.
BZA case 02-21-00470. The applicant and property owner Allison Lawrence and Stephen Alexander Lawrence are requesting a variance to locate a detached accessory structure in-ground swimming pool to the side of the principal structure at 1910 Delmar Street, TMS number 3500100061 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County. The subject property is located in the Doo-Wop Wapu Overlay Single Family R4 zoning district. The properties to the northwest, south, east, and west are located in the same zoning district, and the properties directly to the north is located in the city of Charleston's jurisdiction. The subject property is a 0.44 acre subject property and contains a single family residence that was constructed in 1969 for Charleston County records. The property, lot 88, was created in 1983, plat book Y44, page 405. The property was purchased by the applicant in October of 2019. As far as the criteria, staff does believe that they meet all 7 of the criteria found in the packet. In granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions, regulations to the location, character, or other features to the proposed building or structure as the board may consider advisable to protect the established property values located on the subject property to promote public health, safety, and the general welfare. I did fail to mention that the proposed in-ground swimming pool is a 12-foot 9-inch by 25 feet long, 12 feet by 9 inches wide and 25 feet long is for the proposed in-ground swimming pool. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions or deny BZA case 02-21-00470, the variance requesting to locate a detached accessory structure in-ground swimming pool to the side of the principal structure at 1910 Delmar Street, TMS number 3500100061 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. Staff does not have any conditions that they are proposing attaching to this application.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Do we have any questions of Mr. Downey or staff? None. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Workin, is the applicant available?
Yes, I will get her on. Okay, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Okay, if you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And state your full name and address for the record.
My name is Stephen Lawrence. The address is 1910 Delmar Street, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407.
Good evening, Mr. Lawrence. How are you tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Mr. Lawrence, I'm just captivated by this picture behind you. I don't know why. But please tell this board why we should approve your application, sir.
The application for the variance is based on the fact that the property that's there is situated 90 degrees off of center, so the front of the property doesn't face the road, which would put the yard that the proposed swimming pool would go in into what is technically the side yard as opposed to the backyard, which is what's required by the ordinance. but due to the fact that the house is turned on the property and doesn't face the road, the ideal spot for the pool would be in what is considered the side yard. That is the part that's immediately behind the footprint of the structure.
You couldn't have put it anyplace else, now could you?
It just doesn't allow, as far as for landscape architecture and anywhere else on the property, is just not ideal. Obviously, on the other side, there actually was a swimming pool on the other side of that fence of the next property. It was kind of in the same situation. So it didn't appear to be a problem. And that's really the most ideal spot for it, is the property. If you put it, what is technically the backyard, would basically be like behind the side of the house on the other side that is furthest away from the road.
Very good, Mr. Lawrence. Does anyone have a question of the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Oh, wait a minute. Ms. Smalls, did you have a question?
Just had a one quick question or thought. We had a scenario in my neighborhood where somebody put in a pool and it impacted the neighbor's property next door with flooding. You don't foresee that being a potential issue, do you?
No, ma'am, we don't. That's actually like the highest point of the property. If we were to put it where the ordinance would dictate, that's the lowest point, and it would cause significantly more problems with flooding if we put it back there as opposed to the spot that's proposed.
Good question, Ms. Small. Anyone else? Mr. Williams, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Just trying to clarify, the pool exists now in a certain location?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay. So you're gonna put a new underground pool in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question of the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you.
Your testimony. Ms. Worker, do we have anyone else to speak in favor or opposition of this application?
Did your wife, does she want to speak, or all good, Mr. Lawrence? She doesn't have to, but I just want to give her the opportunity if she wants to. Okay, great. Then, then no, we don't have any other speakers tonight for this case.
Thank you.
Okay.
Board, do we have any other questions of staff? Any concerns? Okay, very good. At this time, I'll close the case to the public. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion to either approve or deny application BZA-02-21-00470. Mr. Marchant? Okay. I thought I saw your hand, Mr. Marchant. Sorry. No one?
I'll make a motion.
Miss Allison, very good.
For case BZA-02-21-00470, I'd like to make a motion to approve based on the following criteria. Criteria 1, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. Criteria 2, that these conditions are unique to the subject property and don't generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Criteria 3, because of the conditions, the application of the ordinance would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Criteria 4, the authorization of this variance will not be of substantial detriment to the public good or adjacent property. Criteria 5, the variance does not allow use that's not permitted in the zoning district. Criteria 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. And for criteria 7, the variance does not conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of the ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Allison. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Smalls, thank you for that second. Any questions? Comments? Ms. Working, could you please call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
okay. Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Marchant,
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Approval.
Congratulations, Mr. Lawrence, on getting your application approved. Within 10 working days, you'll get some information from staff letting you know the next step in the process. Once again, congratulations, and be safe with the pool, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good night, sir.
You as well.
Okay, board, we on that home stretch. I know everybody yarning and a little tired, long day, but this is the last one for sure this time. Our last case tonight, board, is case BZA 02-21-00471. And this case will be presented by Ms. Working.
All right. Okay, the applicant is Matt Clark. The property owner is Roger Warren with Hallover Creek Development Company, LLC. The property is located at 830 Kiowa Island Parkway on Johns Island. The tax map number is 20500000005. The property is located in a single-family residential R4 zoning district. The request is for a special event parking for a temporary special event, the PGA Championship. And this is required because of Chapter 6, Article 6.7, to use this property for the parking for the temporary event. So the actual event will be occurring on Kiowa, but this is just the temporary parking to help traffic with that event. And these are the sections of the ordinance. This is a zoning map showing the property in yellows, R4. The plan development is Cacique. Then to the south, you have Kiowa Island. To the west, you have the town of Seabrook. And of course, to the north is Johns Island and Freshfields, which is in Kiowa. And this is a zoomed in aerial. You can see the open fields where the parking will occur. And the zoomed out aerial. This is a picture of the field for the parking. And more pictures. And this is the entrance off of Kiowa Island Parkway and the driveways in the property. And this is Kiowa Island Parkway. We did receive, and in your packet, letters of coordination are required for special events. We received a letter from SCDHEC, Charleston County Building Inspection Services, St. John's Fire District, the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. MUSC is going to be the provider for on-site medical care and coverage. The town of Kiowa Island has worked with the PGA on the traffic flow pattern to include new turn lanes into the field where the temporary special event parking will be provided. The town of Seabrook Island issued an encroachment permit to install a temporary access driveway on Seabrook Island Road into the field where temporary special event parking will be provided. And finally, there was an email provided from the South Carolina Department of Commerce. Unlike or similar to short-term rentals, special events have their own criteria, and these are listed here and in the report, criteria A through H. I believe we said they meet all the criteria. Just double checking, yes. Yeah, we stated that they meet all of the criteria, and we are requesting the following conditions. 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the limited site plan review process. 2, the applicant property owner shall comply with all requirements of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance, ZELDAR, Chapter 6 Use Regulations, Article 6.7 Special Events Use, Section 6.7.3 Temporary Special Events, and Section 6.75 Outdoor Special Events. The outdoor special event shall require a temporary special events permit from the planning director. The outdoor special event activities will be subject to the county's livability and/or noise ordinance. At no time shall associated special event parking be allowed in a public or private right-of-way or access easement. And 3, the applicant property owner shall provide letters of coordination or a copy of the contracts for solid waste collection disposal service providers. This is a site plan showing the parking locations and zoomed in showing the queuing area for the buses and the restrooms. And another zoomed in area with the queuing area for the buses. And it shows public restrooms and staff restrooms. This is the plat. There's several pages for the plat, but it's all one big property. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Does anyone have a question of Ms. Working? Mr. Williams?
Ms. Working, how big is that property? What's the size of it?
Let's see. I'm not sure if I put that in there, but I could find it. Packet, maybe.
It's big enough.
It's pretty big, huh? Is it a couple football fields? Couple city blocks? It's pretty big, huh? They're doing a lot with that, huh? So it's 111 and 005 plots?
No, it's only the one property.
Okay.
And maybe the applicant knows. I just can't find it right now. I'll keep looking. Do you have any more questions?
Any more questions?
Yes. What are they? How many cars are they trying to park over there?
The applicant's going to discuss that as well. They're prepared to discuss that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let's see. I got the deed here. Let's make sure I got the right one. It's 205. 005. Yeah. So it says it's 367.879 acres of highland. Above the mean high water letter, containing 351.036 acres above the hexocean critical line, and 16 acres below the critical line. The deed.
So the reason for having to come to in front of the BZA is why exactly?
So the lot is in Charleston County on Johns Island, technically, even though Freshfields was annexed into the town of Kilo Island, this parcel has not been annexed, so it is in the county and it's R4 parcel. So R4 parcels require approval each year for special events, but they're just asking for that week in May, May 17th to 23rd.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. Ms. Working, is the applicant available?
Yes. time. Mr. Clark, if you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And state your full name and address for the record.
My name is Matt Clark. The address is 1000 Ocean Course Drive, Kiowa Island, South Carolina, 29455.
Good evening, Mr. Clark.
Good evening. How is everyone? I commend you for no restroom breaks during this whole time. Applaud it.
Well, I think we're all trying to get out of here pretty quickly tonight.
Perfect. Well, let me, I'll go ahead and give my quick intro here.
So please tell us why we should approve your application, Mr. Clark.
Yes, sir. The 2021 PGA Championship will be hosted at the Ocean Course on Kiowa Island Golf Resort, May 17th to the 23rd. We are looking to use the Hall Creek development for parking our general spectators attending the event, volunteers that are helping put on the event, and vendors that are working the event. It is the very similar plan to what we had in 2012 for the PGA Championship at the Ocean Course, same field. As you may have heard or seen the news, we recently, I guess a couple months ago, we had to reduce our spectators to roughly 10,000 spectators versus the 25 to 30 that we were hoping for. So with that, we are estimating roughly 3,500 vehicles to park in the Hall Creek development land and then be shuttled to the Ocean Course. We've been working in conjunction with Charleston County Sheriff's Office, Town of Kiowa, Town of Seabrook, and then we also have had a few different traffic studies done to see how we can best facilitate traffic and, provide as little impact to the community as possible. With that, we hope to move forward with parking everyone at the site to enjoy a successful, safe championship.
Very good. Mr. Clark, what is your role in this operation?
I am the operations manager. So I oversee a lot of our, what we call our SPEC, our security parking and emergency committee, and then a lot of our vendors that build the site and hospitality areas on the course.
Well, this is a pretty quick turnaround. If you get this approved tonight, to move forward with it. Do you have an alternate plan?
Not yet.
Uh-oh. Okay. Do we have anyone else that has a question of Mr. Clark? All right. Mr. Hughes, you close your ears. I got a joke. Mr. Clark, I didn't see any parking passes in his application.
It's free parking at Hall Creek Development.
It's late. I'm trying to get out of here. So it's just, does anyone else have a question of Mr. Clark? Mr. Williams?
Mr. Clark, so you work with the PGA?
Yes, sir. PGA of America employee.
Okay, I don't know if I speak to this. There was one letter about this one resident was saying that they were going to be blocked in. I think they said. Ms. Workin, I don't know, Mr. Clark, if you could speak to that.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, he received that letter. So he's seen it, and that gentleman is also on the line to speak as well. But I'll let him, Mr. Clark, address your question.
Sure. Yes, I did see the letter. I think in conjunction, we will have Charleston County Sheriff's Office providing traffic support in strategic locations. And our anticipation is they won't see delays beyond, but we've reduced the amount of contractors coming to Kiowa and hopefully Seabrook as well. So with that reduced contractor traffic, there really won't be that much different impact than what they see on a regular basis.
So really, it's the main road. Is that the main road to Kiowa, right? Just that
Correct.
Stretch?
Yes, sir.
That it's like 3 lanes on both sides, I think it is, right?
One lane in.
One lane?
One in, one out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have a question of Mr. Clark? Very good. Ms. Workin, do we have anyone else to speak in either favor or opposition of this application?
Yes, I'm going to get that speaker on. He sent Mr. George, he sent a letter as well. Get him on now. Hold on. There he is. Okay.
Yes, hello.
Hi. If you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And state your full name and address for the record, please.
My name is Doyle George. I have a house at 4013 Bridle Trail Drive, and that's on Seabrook Island. That is one of actually, as of January 1st, I became a full-time resident at that residence. I now have another house in Charlotte, North Carolina, from where I'm speaking.
Thank you, Mr. George, for coming before us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Mr. George, please tell this board why we should have denied this application, or you are in support.
Well, I wouldn't say you should deny it. I would say that the application is incomplete. I would, if I were you, and I'm not, I would like to see the traffic studies that Mr. Clark has mentioned. I don't believe for a moment that 10,000 spectators per day will only generate 3,500 vehicles. And then secondly, I can't speak to Kiowa Parkway because I'm a resident on Seabrook, but I can tell you that the Seabrook Island Road is not an arterial road. It doesn't have high volume. It's a very low speed road. And I, for one, am going to be displaced. It will be very difficult for me to avoid the traffic, and I'm going to simply have to leave during that week, which I think is a little unfair. Now, there are ways to remedy that, and I think one way you could do it would be to have adequate police, the sheriff's department. I read the letter that they sent. I think it's inadequate. It doesn't tell me where they're going to be stationed. It doesn't tell me how they're going to direct traffic. And you have to understand that the Betsy Carrison Parkway ends at a roundabout. You could either go to Seabrook Island or you can go to Kiowa. And that's a critical choke point. I just think that given the amount of money involved here, which is substantial, I would think it would be appropriate to know whether I'll be able to access my home. And that's really all I have to say. I don't think this is an arterial road, by the way. So I don't think it meets the requirements under your ordinance.
Very good. So you're in opposition to this?
Well, I think it needs to be, I think the application needs to be worked on. I would like to see the traffic studies that Mr. Clark says he has.
Okay. All right. Very good, Mr. George. Mr. George, hold tight for us, please. Do we have anybody that has a question of Mr. George at this time? Any board member that has a question of Mr. George? Mr. George, Mr. Marchant, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mr. George. Thanks for being here today. I'm just curious, how long have you had your residence out at Seabrook?
7 years, almost.
Okay. And
October 2014.
And do we know when the PGA announced the tournament by any chance?
I don't know, but I only received a copy of the notice from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It was mailed on the 23rd of March. That's the first time I heard about it.
I'm just trying to establish sort of the knowing of a major golf tournament, you know, prior to your living there. And because we
I would, and I respect that. I mean, I think this is a late comment from me, but on the other hand, I think that the application ought to be complete. And if Mr. Clark has these traffic studies, I would think that you as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment will want to see those.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question of Mr. Williams? I see your hand.
Mr. George, good evening.
Good evening.
So your concern is the traffic coming from the northern, like down from, let's say, Columbia, or what direction?
Well, you got to understand, first of all, that the main highway and Betsy Carrison Parkway have significant accidents. It's a very dangerous entrance, as you know, to the islands. So Betsy Carrison is 2 lanes in each direction, but then you get to the traffic roundabout. And then at that point, there's a choke point, and you go to right or left, right toward Seabrook Island, left toward Kiowa. And the real problem is that it's only 2 lanes and a very low volume road. And I'd like to know what real provisions are going to be provided by the Charleston County Sheriff's Department to make sure that people who are residents on Seabrook Island can actually get to their homes. I don't think that's unreasonable.
To answer your question, Mr. Williams.
So there's only one way off and on Seabrook Island? I'm just trying to get familiar with the route.
That's it, unless you have a boat.
Yeah. And you would be trying to, let's say, if you were to get off, you're going to be coming towards Charleston, maybe that direction.
Right, towards 17. Yeah, yeah. I'll not be able to get off the island or on the island during this tournament, unless there's adequate direction from the Sheriff's Department. And I do think that could happen if you insisted that it happen. But right now, the application is totally incomplete. We have traffic studies. Let's see the traffic studies. It's hard for me to believe that 10,000 spectators are going to cram into 3,500 vehicles. Maybe you could believe that, but I don't. And I do think there's adequate parking. 350 acres is plenty. That's not the issue. The issue is getting in and out of the parking area. For example, why does the parking have to be provided right there? Could it not be provided at another location close by? Kiowa River has a huge development underway. Lots of parking. You could have buses go from there. There are a lot of ways to deal with this, but it's a little premature. Or at least they didn't think of this, or maybe they did.
I wonder if they have any solutions. I'm curious.
There are solutions to this problem. They just haven't been addressed.
So thank you for that rebuttal there, Mr. George. We'll give Mr. Clark an opportunity to answer your question. Does any other board member have a question of the applicant? Not the applicant, but of Mr. George, excuse me. Mr. George, thank you. Hopefully we can get these answers addressed tonight for you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I do, before you go, you said you just moved to this residence. You've owned it for some time, but you reside in North Carolina, am I correct?
Just became a resident as of January of this year, a full-time resident of Seabrook. Until that time, I'm a commercial real estate lawyer in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's my profession.
Very good. Ms. Workin, do we have anyone else to speak in favor or in opposition to this?
No, we have no other speakers for this case.
Mr. Clark, I see if you have some opposition. Would you please address, you have 2 minutes to address the concerns that you have from Mr. George, sir.
Yes, thank you. We did have a traffic study actually done by Thomas and Hutton, which was required by the town of Seabrook Island to obtain the encroachment permit off of Seabrook Island Road. So that was complete and done. We do have fixed traffic posts provided by Charleston County Sheriff's Office and/or South Carolina State Patrol on Seabrook at the entry point off of Seabrook Island Road, Keel Island Parkway, and at the traffic circle. We'll have also roaming law enforcement posts on the roads leading in to the traffic circle along River Road, Bohicket, all the way up to Maine and Savannah Highway. They will respond as we probably cause a little traffic in certain locations on the way, but that's why we are working with law enforcement diligently to come up with a comprehensive plan. I would say also that Kiowa Island, being a pretty sizable island and a lot of the residents being the early ones to buy tickets were able to retain their tickets. So a lot of the residents of Kiowa are actually those that are going to be spectators. So there will be less vehicular traffic because they'll already be on the island and we'll be riding a on-island shuttle for those residents. So I guess that wraps up my rebuttal.
Okay. Does anyone have a question on Mr. Clark regarding the statements he just made? I got a question for you, Mr. Clark.
Yep.
Why didn't you provide that traffic study to us, sir?
It was not a requirement.
It might not have been a requirement, but it sure would have helped.
Understood.
Yes, sir. Does anyone else have a question?
Mr. Clark, you said this lot was used the last time the PGA was here?
Correct. Yep. And that's one of the reasons we're using it again. It's been well conditioned. There's already existing roadways that will help facilitate the vehicles and the bus lanes for that traffic that we are using or how we're bringing them in.
So, Mr. Clark, how is Mr. George going to be able to get from his home in and out without very major delays?
The same way as he normally does. He may experience a little traffic, but we don't expect longer delays in a couple of minutes. Law enforcement will be there controlling traffic on the inbound and outbound.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, Mr. Clark, do you know the times that's going to be heavy traffic?
We do. We normally see on the inbound or on the ingress, I guess, to the development, it'd be from roughly 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is when we see our heaviest traffic flow. And then on the outbound, it's roughly from 4 to 5. Most people are leaving the event for the day.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does any other board member have a question of Mr. Clark? Yes, sir, Mr. Boykin.
Mr. Clark, I just may be a silly question to ask, but I would presume that there's going to be a uniform law enforcement officer with blue lights and everything sitting right there where the point of ingress and egress goes out of that property where the parking is going to occur in Seabrook Island Road, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir. They'll be there to control the traffic. If someone's coming on the outbound from Seabrook, they'll hold the inbound, making the lefts in, let the traffic through. Similarly, and vice versa. Same thing on Key Lawn Parkway.
Gotcha. Having done that in my past experience, I'm well familiar with special events and law enforcement. So that's what I'm saying. Mr. George's concern is that, everybody can't go through one intersection at a time, and those officers will have the common sense and judgment to hold up traffic, to allow residents to get in and out, as they also allow the patrons of the event to get in and out of the parking area, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Anyone else? Comment?
May I ask Mr. Boykin a question?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I'd like to know, though, how you're going to tell the residents from the visitors.
If you would wait, please, we'll answer those questions. At this time, does any other board member have a question of Mr. Clark? Very good. At this time, I'll close the case to the public. Does anybody have a question for staff? Mr. Boykin.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to make a comment or a statement. It's not a question to address Mr. George's concern, if I might.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. George, I really don't look at it as residents and patrons as worrying about who's in what cars. Those officers are not going to be worried about that. They're just going to simply make sure all lanes of traffic in all directions will be moving. There'll be delays where they'll hold up one lane, let people pull into that parking area, then they'll stop the cars from turning in and allow the folks on Seabrook Island to pass through. And that's just the way it is at any kind of a traffic situation like that. So it won't be an issue of who's residents and who are not. It's just going to be simply the effective moving of cars, taking turns, passing through there. And, that's about the only thing they can do. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Boykin. Any other questions or comments for staff? once again, I'm closing it to public concerns and comments. And at this time, I'd like to open the floor for either a motion to approve or deny application BZA 02-21-00471.
I move to approve.
Okay, Mr. Williams, are you?
Ms. Worker, can you post those criteria up again, please? So,
Wait a minute. There you go.
let me pull up where.
A through H, Mr. Williams.
I move to approve based on the fact that this event is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. The safety measures have been put in place. DHEC has been communicated with. Police will be out there. Traffic will be controlled. So those are the reasons for A. B, it does not hinder or endanger vehicular traffic and pedestrian movement on adjacent roads. It does not, because the times have been stated where it's going to be heavier traffic. We trust the local police, Charleston County Sheriff's Office will be able to work this event and make sure the traffic is not hindering pedestrian movement. The sidewalks aren't really going to be hindered. It's one location. C, it includes adequate provisions for items such as setbacks and buffering, including fences and or landscaping to protect the adjacent properties from the possible adverse influence of the proposed use, such as noise, vibration, dust, glare, odor, traffic, congestion, and similar factors. D, where applicable, we will be developed in a way that we preserve and incorporate any important natural features. It's going to be preserved. It's going to be one event usage, so it's not going to be changing natural features. E, the setup and disassembly of special events will not be detrimental to the surrounding community. This event is not going to hinder the surrounding area in any way. F, includes sufficient safeguards for the use of temporary structures if applicable. They have a plan, the event has a plan put in place for needed structures on the premises, and it's going to be used for parking. G, complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of this ordinance, including but not limited to any use, conditions, zoning, district standards, or the site plan review requirements of this ordinance. And H is consistent with the recommendations contained in the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan and the character of the underlying zoning district, purposes, and intent. Although it does not hinder the current Charleston County Plan, because it's being used for one particular event.
The three
So
conditions, Mr. Williams.
What's that? The conditions?
The three conditions also, sir.
Absolutely. With the three conditions recommended by the county: 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the limited site plan review process. 2, the applicant property owner shall comply with all requirements of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Ordinance, Chapter 6, Use Regulations, Articles 6.7, Special Events Use, Section 6.7.3, Temporary Special Events, and Section 6.7.5, Outdoor Special Events. The outdoor special event shall require a temporary special events permit from the planning director. The outdoor special event activities will be subject to the county's livability and or noise ordinance, and at no time shall associated special event parking be allowed in a public or private right-of-way or access easement. 3, the applicant property owner shall provide letters of coordination or a copy of the contracts for solid waste collection disposal service providers with these conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Borkin? Thank you. Questions? Comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Borkin.
Very quickly, one other thing to, for the folks on the board to consider, I travel through that intersection and that area most every week. And when Betsy Carrison gets to the end where it runs into the traffic circle, the right-hand lane of Betsy Carrison is a absolute direct route onto Seabrook Island, which negates the issue of any of those folks going down here to this parking area, having to go through the traffic circle to get to where they're going to be parked. Now, when they leave, they'll have to all go through it, but that will mitigate some of the traffic concerns involving the traffic circle itself.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. Any other comments before we go into a vote? Ms. Workin, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Marchant,
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 3 conditions.
Mr. Clark, congratulations on getting this application approved for the PGA.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Within 10 business days, working days, excuse me, you'll get some information from staff letting you know the exact next steps to take in the process, sir. Good night.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Ms. Working, do you have any other information for this august body?
Hold on. Good. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. So your next meeting is very soon. We don't get a break, right? May 3rd at 5 o'clock. We're hoping this might be your last virtual meeting, the May meeting. I know, I'm starting to get Zoom fatigue. This is actually pretty hard to put all this together and try to get people, sign up.
Especially with guests, right?
Oh, yeah. So we'll see, but tentatively we hope that maybe June will be, and it's not until June 7th, so you will have a little break there. But we have 9 variance cases, and they're all new cases for May. And that's, and then just keep me up to date on what you're doing with your training. For the new members, you guys have to do the 6 hours, so, and you should try to do 1 hour at a time. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Workin. Hey, board, great job tonight. I really appreciate you pushing through and getting this done without a break.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. At least you're at home. You don't have to drive home. And some had the luxury of being outside with the birds chirping and everything. Thank all of you for doing a really good job tonight, asking really good questions, and being very probing. And staff, I really appreciate the way you presented all this information tonight. Thank you so very much.
Good night.
Fellow board members, I thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.